Okay, so this video is going to show the steps on how to create an exam in my Spanish lab. I may need to divide it into two to fit into the 15-minute max time for this, but if so, then there'll be multiple videos. But let's get started. So here we are in the main My Spanish Lab screen. And if you go into assign course materials, you were then given an advanced course management view button. And when you click that, you're going to see a list of options, and one of them is create my test. So that is what we're going to be doing in the program right now. And this is what opens up when you are starting to create a test. So you can see that there are all of our chapters listed here, and these are the tests that I've already created. So I'm going to start from the beginning so you can see how that works. So let's just choose chapter 5 as an example. Let's pretend we're making a chapter 5 exam. I can expand the chapter 5 exam if I want to just look at what all the options are for the sections that I might add to my test. Keep in mind that we can edit the questions to a certain level at each step, but initially you're just looking at what the options are. You're basically going to build a exam with the raw sections, and then we're going to make changes to make it look like that we want to look at. So this right now is just a view, so you could go through and see what you want to do. These options right here are the same options that are in the instructor resources Word documents that you might already be using to create your exams in paper. So if you want to print those out first and then make selections, make edits, that would actually make this process go a lot faster, because then you would already have a master idea of what the sections are you're going to be adding, any edits you're going to make, like if you want to change some questions, delete questions, assign point values, whatnot. So I would recommend, if possible, at least to make a paper form of what it is you're going to do in the raw sense of it, like you've selected the sections and made some edits, so that that'll make this process go a little faster. So that's just to view those things right here. Once you're ready to start creating your test, you're going to click New Test. It says Create a New Test. I'm going to call this Video Example Test. And you want to scroll down here and choose Test, and you're going to click Create Test. So what that does is it creates a shell for the test. It's now empty, and we're going to be able to add any questions that we want from this. So normally you'd be just choosing from a normal regular chapter, but in the event that you have to create a final exam, then you could also go through and add these multiple sections from multiple tests to your exam. There's also the capability of creating your own questions. It's a little bit more complicated, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless you have a very specific type of activity, and then we can look at that at a different time. So as I said earlier, we were looking at chapter 5. So now I can go through and I can choose the sections that I want to add to it. So you could do them one at a time. For example, you could look at this and go, okay, this looks like a good activity to use. You click the checkbox, and then I click Add, and it pulls it over to the test shell. So then I continue to go through. You could do this one by one like I just did, or you could do this. Say, that looks good. Here's an audio one. That one looks good. They're in rough order of how the things come in the book. And at the very end of the section, there's some additional activities that you might add. So this tells you when it's an instructor graded activity, so you can choose whether or not you want to do those. You might skip them. You can also filter it using this button right here. And do it that way. Here's a reading section with your thoughts. So let's say you like that. The one thing that these online tests allow you to do that are not easy to do in our classroom tests is to have students record spoken activities. So one thing I'm planning on doing is adding at least one of these sections per test. I figure if they're having to take their tests online anyway, might as well have them do some audio recording like that. So let's say we do that, and I'll pick one more just as an example. This is an essay right there. So I've added that. There's tons and tons more. You can choose the activities that you feel work best. There's audio where they can play and listen to it as many times and decide, etc. So I've added all those that I selected, and now you can notice that these are all listed right here. Now, right now I have this raw version of my test that is just the questions that I want to use. Some sections like this have them listed as only one assignment with a bunch of questions, but most of them, you can notice, have these little dots next to each question that you might include. So let's say this audio listening section has all these true-false questions, and I feel, okay, that's too many. Just right off the bat, I know that I want to get rid of a few of them. Then I can click and delete. And that question will go away. Let's say I want to get rid of that one too. Delete. That question will go away. And so on and so forth. If you see the three dots, the only functionality we have at this point is to delete. And I will show you, we can edit things later, and I'll show you how that works. But now we have our test. So let's say you've had you decided which questions you want to get rid of. You feel like your test is balanced with assignments, etc. You want to save pretty regularly in case something happens, so all your hard work doesn't disappear. And then once you're done, you will save it and close. Okay, test saved successfully, and you can see that now it appears in this folder that says manage your tests. Now, these options right here would be if you were going to be creating these tests in a different format. For example, a print format. So you probably will not be using those. If you want to test it out, you can click it, and it'll go back to there if you want to change things there. So that's what that does. So you can basically create as many tests as you need from this. It'll tell you right here the number of questions. That's not the number of points, so don't get confused. That's going to come later. So that is you've created the raw test, which we then now can use to edit. So to get to that, I click course materials, and then I'm going to click manage your course materials library. And the very first thing you have is all the stuff here, but you have a folder called My Test folder. So when I click that, you'll notice here is a video example test that I created earlier. So now I can edit that actual assignment. It created the test as an assignment, so now we can give it more zhuzh. We can detail it in ways that we want to make sure that anytime we assign this to our students, that it would carry through certain preferences, etc. So I'm going to walk through each one of these windows, even though some of them don't really matter. You can literally click Save and Continue, and it will go to the next one. Activity details, I leave blank. Questions. So now it's going to pull up this menu, and you can see that each section, that's what's the colored heading right here, each section that I added now has a full editing capability. It's going to tell you how many points are assigned total. So this one is now 5 points, 5 points. This one there were 6 questions, 6 points. The default for most of these is only 1 point. But the problem is that the default for, say, the essay is also 1 point. So these are things that you're going to obviously want to change to make the balance of the test a little more in line with what you would normally do. So some of the things that you might, some of the more advanced features you might do is you can have them shuffle questions. Randomize would be if you were going to have a pool of questions, so I would not turn that on. But shuffle just changes the order. That's mainly only if you're having people take tests right next to each other and you don't want to have them see the same question. So both of these are not really things that we didn't really need to do right now. So if you're wondering what that question was, you've already looked through the raw shell version and you've deleted the questions you didn't want, but you may not remember what a question is. So we can click, give me 1 second. So you can click, and then this says edit, delete, try out, set point. If the only thing you know you want to do is change the points, is you can hit set point if it gives you as an option. Sometimes it doesn't. I'll show you how to do that. And now we can change it to 2 points. Save and close. And it is a little tedious. You do have to change it per question, each one, but you can literally just go through 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. If you want to change the question at all, instead, we will click edit, and that brings up this whole edit screen. Hold on, because the window's not showing everything. Okay, so you can see it shows you the type of question. This is the question title. Los artículos personales, that's what it was called in the thing. But you'll notice that if you want to preview it, just to remind yourself what it looks like, that's the blank right here. And you can change what the word is there. Now, this type of activity was probably not the best one to show because the activity itself was a label each. It says label each, and it was one's number. So that blank that I just showed you was a number, and so it was associated. So you probably will not want to edit these questions, but let me find one that would be a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a new video because I'm running out of time, but I will continue this in a part 2 right now.